But before I continue, I have a question for you. I would like you to put your hand up if you would like more self-discipline. In other words, if you think that having more self-discipline will make you perhaps happier or healthier, more successful. If you would like more self-discipline, after this is translated, I would like you to put your hand up. So who other than me would like more self-discipline? I want to see a show of hands. Okay, so it's the majority. So I have good news for you and bad news for you. I will start with the bad news because I always like to end on the positive. The bad news is that you're not going to get any more self-discipline. What you have is what you have. It's not really like a muscle that you can get stronger. And there is worse news. The worst news is that what you have is very little. It's not you or you in particular, it's we as human beings have very little self-discipline. But here is the good news. The good news is that you don't need any more self-discipline in order to bring about lasting positive change in your life. What you have, the little that you have, is just enough. The ideas that I will talk about now are taken from the book by Jim Lohr and Tony Schwartz, The Power of Full Engagement. They talk about an experiment done by Roy Baumeister, who is considered the leading social psychologist in the world today from the University of Florida. Roy Baumeister did the following study. He invited participants to the experiment and brought them into a waiting room. In the waiting room, there was a desk, there was a chair, and on the desk there was a bowl. And inside that bowl were freshly baked chocolate chip cookies that just came out of the oven. So if you come into this experiment, the experimenter asks you to please sit down and then says the following. Thank you for participating in our study. I really apologize, but we're running 10 minutes late. So if you don't mind waiting here. And then he leaves the room, but before he closes the door, he says, oh, and one more thing. If you don't mind, please don't touch those cookies because they're for the next experiment. Psychologists are cruel. First, there was Milgram, and now there is this. So you're sitting there for 10 minutes waiting with the aroma of the chocolate chip cookies, and you're not allowed to touch it. And as promised, 10 minutes later, the psychologist comes and grabs you to the real experiment next door. And the real experiment is that you have to take a very difficult, virtually unsolvable puzzle. But what the psychologist is interested in is how long do you persist? How long do you go on trying to solve that puzzle before saying, I can't do it, or I've had enough? How long do you persist? And he's actually timing how long you're taking before you give up. The second group of participants comes in to the same room, same chair, same desk, same bowl. But in the bowl, instead of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies, there are freshly baked, just came out of the oven, red beetroots. And the experiment continues in the exact same way. The experimenter says, thank you very much for participating in our experiment, but I'm really sorry we're running 10 minutes late, so if you don't mind waiting here. And as he's about to leave the room, he says, oh, and please don't touch the red beetroots because they are for the next experiment. Okay, I won't. And you wait there for 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes, the experimenter calls you into the real experiment, which is exactly the same. Having to take a very difficult, virtually unsolvable puzzle. And what the psychologist is interested in, once more, is how long do you persist before giving up, before saying, I've had it, I can't, I don't want to. Now I have a question for you. Who do you think persisted longer? The chocolate chip cookie group or the red beets group? Just so you know, I was asked this question, I got it wrong. It's difficult to know just based on this experiment because Baumeister ran 3 other studies in order to show what really was going on. But after the translation, who do you think persisted longer? So there was a very big difference between the 2 groups. Who do you think persisted longer? Okay, so some are right, some are wrong. The group that persisted a lot longer, again, very difficult to know this just based on this experiment. The group that persisted a lot longer was the red beet root group. So Baumeister ran a few more studies that explained why. You see, you're sitting next to the chocolate chip cookies. You're not allowed to touch them. In other words, you need to use self-discipline in order not to touch them. With the red beetroots group, no self-discipline is needed. Maybe the opposite, you need self-discipline to eat them. And when you go into the real experiment, after the chocolate chip cookies, you have very little self-discipline left for the difficult task. Whereas with the red beets group, you lost no self-discipline. You have everything left for the next task. I must say, I find this experiment pathetic. 10 minutes of chocolate chip cookies and our self-discipline is gone. I told you this was terrible news. We have so little self-discipline at our disposal. You know, it reminds me a few years ago, part of my family went out together. You see, my family is divided into 2 parts. One half looks like me. No matter how much we eat, we look like this. My grandmother even said about me that food is wasted on me. The other side of the family, very different. Their whole lives they have been struggling with weight issues. So one day my mom comes home, she's the head of the other group, and says, tonight we, not you, we are going out together. And I asked, where? And she said, we're going to an OA meeting. I said, what's OA? She said, OA is Overeating Anonymous. Just like you have AA, Alcoholic Anonymous, there is apparently Overeating Anonymous. So we're going there alone. So they went out early because they wanted to have a meal together to bond. And they came back very late. And they came back all happy. And I asked them, so what did you learn? And they said, forget it. I said, no, tell me, I want to know, what did you learn? And they said, okay, we'll tell you one thing. We learned that we mustn't bring enemies home. And I said, enemies? And they said, no, the enemies are chocolate chip cookies, sweets, carbohydrates, or whatever food it is for them that poses difficulty resisting. This is very smart because they understand that we have very little self-discipline. They don't want us to spend our self-discipline resisting that cookie in the fridge that's calling my name. They want them to use the self-discipline for doing things that are important, such as going out and exercising. Very smart approach to losing weight or controlling weight. So I have another question for you. How many people in this room have set New Year's resolutions, so on January 1, or birthday resolutions, or especially those special birthdays, you know, when we just turn, 40 or 50 or 60. Who has actually written down New Year's or birthday resolutions, not one or two, but a list of them, and actually fulfilled all of them? So please put your hand up if you had a list of New Year's resolutions and you fulfilled all of them. Higher, please, so that we can all bow down to you. Nobody. You see, I've asked this question to thousands of people, and here and there you get one hand up. Very rare. But I have another question for you. Please put your hand up if this morning you brushed your teeth. Please put your hand up. Okay. Now, thank you. Please put your hand up if you didn't. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Why? Why nobody fulfills their New Year's resolution and everybody brushes their teeth this morning? Because fulfilling our New Year's resolutions requires self-discipline, whereas brushing our teeth is a ritual, a habit. And habits pull us and push us. We don't need self-discipline in order to follow through with them. So what happened this morning? This morning, what happened is that you got out of bed and you said to yourself, today is the day. Today I'm going to brush my teeth. I know that Tal is probably going to ask about it. Today I'm going to brush my teeth. And in order to help you, to motivate you, you remember something that you learned in a previous workshop, and that is the importance of visualization. And in order to further motivate yourself to brush your teeth, you closed your eyes and did this. Today is the day. Today I'm going to brush my teeth. And you took your toothbrush and you brushed. Yes. No, this is not what happened this morning. I'll tell you what happened this morning. You got up and the first word that came to mind was, why? Why did psychologists have to organize this seminar so early? This is supposed to be a master class on happiness. Why couldn't they wait 1 hour to start it? But somehow you rolled out of bed, went to the bathroom and brushed your teeth. Why? Because it's a ritual. And to carry out rituals, we don't need self-discipline. We don't need background music. We don't need visualization. We need very little motivation because we just do it. Because as the British poet John Dryden once said, we first make our habits and then our habits make us. And this is the difference between the B's and the C's. The B's rely on self-discipline and end up achieving very little out of their long lists, whereas the C's rely on rituals and therefore enjoy lasting change.